Hey, so I've been pretty busy recently just because it's getting near the end of the school year and I have to finish quite a few different large projects and get ready for finals, which isn't really too bad, but I've kind of gotten out of practice, out of my normal routine for school, so getting back into that has been a little bit tricky. But of course, when I'm focused on school, it means I obviously cannot focus so much on art as I would like to. So I haven't been making quite as much recently as I normally would like to. But oh well, I will be done with school, I think, by the end of next week. So after that, I can put a lot more energy into things like art again. So I'm looking forward to that. And I'm still in the whole quarantine lockdown thing because of COVID-19, and I think we've been in it for about 5 weeks. I think that's right. And I think the whole state has been in for 4 weeks, but I was in for an extra week because I wasn't able to go anywhere after I came home from school. So just because we didn't want me to give anything because I had been traveling and all that. So we've been in quarantine for about 5 weeks now, and I think we have 2 weeks to go, which is, we're what, almost, I can't math. We're most of the way through, I guess, but it just feels like such a long time. I have people I really want to see. I haven't seen any of my friends since January, and I have not seen a few of my friends since August, since before I went to school. So there's definitely people who I miss and I want to see again, but I can't for at least another 2 weeks. And who knows, they might extend the whole quarantine lockdown thing again, which would not be fun. I'm just hoping that all the cases and everything are going down and things can slowly start going back to normal, but we shall see, I suppose. And I think that just being so, I think being in quarantine has been a whole lot harder for me than I originally anticipated because I'm an introvert. I normally don't go outside. I normally don't go and hang out with people. And so I've always kind of thought, oh, if I have to stay home alone for an extended period of time, I'm fine with that. I normally seek out being alone for extended periods of time. And so being by myself for a while sounded quite nice, but in reality, I found that it's actually a lot harder than I would have thought, because even though being around people kind of tires me out, there's definitely a few people who I really want to see and I want to hang out with. And when I can't for weeks and weeks and weeks on end, I guess that's just harder. And for some reason, being told, oh, I can't go anywhere, just makes me want to go places all the more. So that's been interesting to deal with. Obviously, I'm not completely alone. I have my family. We're all in the same house right now, so that's kind of nice. At least I have people to hang out with, although things can definitely get a little crazy with having all four of my siblings under the same roof. But we've been able to kind of just do things together, which is fun. We've been playing a lot of games together and just hanging out, which has been pretty cool. And so I think that's one positive thing that's actually kind of come out of this whole mess is I actually feel like I've been hanging out more with my siblings because I don't really have anyone else to hang out with. So I guess that's kind of a cool thing that came out of this whole not so wonderful situation. And I think I think that once this whole thing is over, what I mostly just want to see like one or two people, and I think once I can see like a couple people again, everything I'll feel a lot better, but it's just hard being home and not being able to see anybody even though I'm so close to where they are. Um but oh well. That's what it is. Things are the way they are right now and can't really do anything to change it. Can only, stay home and hope things start getting to a better, safer place pretty soon. So, my family went up to see my grandmother's house for one last time because she's moving into the city, which I'm happy for her because I know that that's what she really wants to do. She wants to be in a place where she's less isolated and there's more things to do and such, but it was also very hard because that house is a place I grew up with, and there's like it's been a part of my life ever since I was born. And originally there was a different house there on that property which burnt down, which was also really sad. And so it feels like I've lost that kind of place twice at this point, once through the house fire and again now with the whole moving. So it's been pretty hard. It's this where it is by the sea, and it was one of the first places where I really got to experience the ocean and, you know, the beach and looking for shells on the shore and sea glass and looking at my favorite animal, of course, jellyfish. And so I think just kind of the saying goodbye was hard because I feel like I've said one too many goodbyes in the past few years to different people, to different places, and I've never really experienced that to this degree before. And I mean, it's such a small thing, it's a house. It's not like it's just a place at the end of the day, and what's important is the memories that I had in that place. And I'm kind of thankful because if it wasn't for this whole thing, and if I was still at school, because I would have still been at school at this time of the year, had it not been for flying me back early due to the whole COVID-19 thing, if I was still at school, I wouldn't have gotten that chance to say goodbye to the place where I have just so many memories and a place that's so important to me. So I'm glad I got to be there and say goodbye because I wouldn't have had that opportunity otherwise. And other than that, I haven't really had very much going on this week other than school stuff mostly. I definitely procrastinated a bit. I've been working on things a little bit here and there throughout the whole quarantine thing, but I definitely did not put as much effort into my schoolwork as I normally would if I wasn't just having online classes. So I've definitely had to pick up the pace a little bit the last few days and focus on getting all those projects done. I have a pretty large presentation that I'm working on that, I mean, it's just a 10-minute presentation, but I'm trying to do visuals for that, and I didn't really want to do a PowerPoint slide. So I've kind of been drawing everything for that, which I don't know, seeing how it turns out. We'll see how it turns out, and if I might potentially post it on here if I feel like it. Probably won't though, because it's probably not going to be all that wonderful or interesting to see, but the whole topic is on how COVID-19 has affected communication, which has just been a pretty interesting topic, I think, just because it's so relevant to what is going on right now. And I was able to ask different people, and look at my own life and see just how is this actually affecting the way that I communicate with people. Obviously, there's definitely a lot more use of technology, especially I think Zoom is something that has definitely gained a lot of popularity recently, whether it's for schools or for businesses or just families or friends trying to talk to each other. So it's definitely been something I've heard Zoom way more than I have before. I mean, I had used it like before for like one class for like a language exchange thing, but other than that, had never really used it or heard of it outside of that one class, and now it's everywhere. So it's definitely been interesting seeing what things have really started to gain popularity and how people have kind of gotten creative with the way that we kind of stay in touch with people, even though like we're physically apart, obviously, but I think there are still ways that you can interact even when you are physically apart. For example, on Easter, my family went over to our friend's house while they went over to our house, and we hid things around each other's yards. So we didn't get to see each other. We didn't get to, you know, obviously we stayed outside and stuff, so it was safe because we weren't actually like with each other, but it was a way for our families to connect even though we couldn't be together because normally we spend Easter together, and obviously we couldn't do that this year. So I think that was one way in which like I've seen kind of being more creative about how we interact with each other and in a way more intentional, which obviously it's a hard situation, and I hope that this is all over soon because which I know it's not going to just go away. Obviously, before we get like a vaccine approved, it has to go through a whole bunch of testing, and it could take, I think they're saying, over another year or maybe who knows how long. But it'll be a while at any rate, and even then, it's not like it just will go away, but hopefully things will get to a more stable place in the not too distant future. So I think it's just been interesting. And I mean, if you want to help me with this random presentation, then feel free to let me know down below how how COVID-19 has affected the way you communicate with people, and how has it changed that for you, because I know that I'm not the only person who has seen communication being changed. Obviously, if it's my presentation, I'm a little bit more focused on that specific thing, and I know COVID-19 has obviously changed a whole lot more than how we communicate. It's kind of turned the whole world upside down at this point, but that's just one of the things that I've been focusing on specifically with this whole situation because I have to do a presentation on it. And I just feel like with the whole like social distancing thing, the fact that most of us, obviously not everybody, has the option to stay home if you have one of the essential jobs, but everybody else, for the most part, to my knowledge, pretty much has to stay home at this point. And I feel like with that staying home, there comes a lot of extra time, which can be a good thing, but can also be a hard thing because I know a lot of people at least get tired of doing the same thing day in and day out. And so what I've been trying to do is just find, for one thing, finding routine, even though my normal routine it is non-existent at this point, but finding kind of a new routine where have specific things I do every day that just kind of give me that sense of things are sort of normal-ish, even though they kind of aren't. And then the other thing I've been trying to do is like learning new things and spending more time on things that I normally don't have a lot of time on. Recently, during the whole quarantine, I got my first drawing tablet, so I've definitely been trying to adjust to that. Before even digital art, I was only used to traditional media until about a year ago, and then I started to kind of dabble in digital art, yeah, about a year ago, and I could not show the things that I made back then because they were so terrible, and it was so strange because I used to seeing digital art that, I don't know, people made it look so easy, but you obviously need to have a lot of skills to do it, and there's a lot of extra knowledge that not everything, there's a lot of skills from traditional art that will transfer to digital art and vice versa. But because you're using technology, you need to know how to use the technology in order to actually utilize the extra tools there are, which that took me a really long time to figure out, um, which I think in some future video I might compare several different drawing software because some are definitely a lot more intuitive than others. The first one I started out with was Krita, which is what I'm using in this video, and that one has a lot of tools, which is great because it allows you to do so many things, but it can also feel a little bit overwhelming, I suppose, just having so many things. It took me, well, over a year to be able to use it to the point that I can now, and in most of my other recent videos, I think I've been using Autodesk Sketchbook, which is a lot more intuitive, but doesn't have a few tools I like. Although I still have to figure out the whole scaling thing in Krita because I'm having a hard time doing just like a full, like keeping the ratios the same and not accidentally distorting the image. Because Autodesk has just like a scaling option on their transform tool, but Krita doesn't have that as far as I can tell. So if you know Krita and know how to use that and scale things proportionately, let me know because I'm still trying to figure that out. I could probably just look it up and it would probably not take me all that long, but I still haven't been able to figure out how to do it so far. So if you know how, please let me know because I don't understand how that works. Um, and another thing is the zoom function is really weird on Krita because it only zooms in as far as I can tell, and then you have to use the little bar thing on the side to zoom back out, which is kind of a pain. Not a big fan of that, but other than that, I've enjoyed being able to use Krita again because I couldn't use Krita for a long time on my old laptop because um, it takes a lot of power and it was just too much for my old laptop to handle while I was also running OBS to record, so I couldn't do them at the same time. I think one of my first videos that I posted on here was on Krita on my old laptop, and it looks terrible because everything's all like jerky and so many frames were dropped, and it doesn't look good. And thankfully, my new laptop can handle it, so I've been kind of going back to using Krita again because I was only using Autodesk for a long time just because I couldn't record and use Krita at the same time. So it's definitely taking me a little bit of time to get used to it again. I think this is maybe my first piece that I've posted on the new laptop using Krita. I'll have to double check on that, but I think it is. And so it's been an adventure with this particular piece, trying to relearn some of the skills. So that's, like I said, just during this whole time, trying to find ways to keep learning things and keep like doing things that maybe normally I wouldn't have time to do. So I just feel like that's been a pretty good way to spend time when I would otherwise maybe not be doing great right now, just because with less schoolwork and not having work anymore, I've just had less things to do, and so keeping busy and feeling productive, I think, is especially important if you don't already have stuff that you need to be doing. Um, and so hopefully everybody is staying safe and sane throughout this whole thing. I'm not entirely sure if I will be doing a video like this again. It's kind of an experiment to see, because I know some people have said just having the video without any music or without having anything other than just the video is kind of boring. So I tried to switch things up this time and just kind of give some updates on what's been going on in my life. But we'll see how it goes. You can let me know if you prefer it this way or you prefer just having just the video. Have a wonderful day or night wherever you are, and just remember to stay safe and healthy. So, see you guys next time. Bye.